Chair,
Okay, we're on
we're being recorded.
live, so
Have to self-censor.
Please, I'll edit all the stuff out before. All the stuff will be edited.
5 second delay.
I don't think that's enough.
I figured out how to get Dennis here. Don't put him on the
Yes, then I just sort of, it's an agenda.
They don't want me here?
That's right. That's right. But I could give you the spiel for sure.
Okay, cool.
Well, welcome and welcome to Chad.
Thank you.
Joining us. Thank you. Everybody know, we need to go around the
Why don't we do it just for the record so that everyone
Zoom.
can be everybody? All right, I'm Ken Ackley. I'm the connection to the select board for this committee.
David Cody, mountain biker and just part of the community looking to make it better.
Chuck Cohen, I'm with the Age Friendly Committee and I'm the chair.
That's what we said.
My name is Chad Wright, lifelong resident of Monmouth, and just love the outdoors and got a young family. So I want to be able to create some trails here in town that we can utilize for everything.
And you have a little experience with being a trail master.
And I've I had served 18 years as trail master of our snowmobile club here in town. Yes.
Garrett Peterson's excited to build some trails and part of the economic development committee in Monmouth as well.
I'm Dennis Price. I'm the caretaker of Cumston Hall in this instance, and I live in Reedfield, Maine, and we have a lot of great trails. So I like to see that spread around.
Yeah, Ludwig, I live just down the road and own Blazing Star Stables, and we were just breaking ground yesterday on the new mountain horse course across the road that, it's a obstacle course. It's built into nature and has trails, that people can come in and use, and it's the only one in the state of Maine.
There you go. Oh, cool.
I'm Sean Schultz. Old Lamistock. Conservation Commission here in Monmouth.
I'm Sean Schultz, the introvert.
So Dennis,
And
we can put you in.
Chris.
Oh, Chris, sorry.
And I'm Chris Bryant. Lived here for about 20 years and particularly interested in Nordic skiing, but in trails in general.
Dennis, we didn't put you on the agenda, but we could put you in on other old business.
That sounds good. I am old.
Over the hill business.
You are.
I'll take it.
You are old, right?
Yes, in a lot of respects.
Business.
Excellent. So just for the sake of knowing how the video goes, I'm gonna stand up here because I think you can see. Oh, no.
Okay, no, go ahead. Do it. It'll adjust.
Oh, okay. There we go. Hello? All right. No?
No,
It's not adjusting?
Who has the little thing? Here we go.
oh no, wrong way.
And never zoom in.
There you go. That's all right, so, hello. All right, so, hello. I am here to speak a little bit about an idea that has been germinating in my mind and through the Friends of Cumston Hall, pretty much ever since I took this job in 2020. The Cumston Hall property is 2 acres. The front acre is what we have as the hall, the grounds, the parking lot, things of that nature. And there's about an acre of property that is owned by the town that runs from the back of the parking lot, or what I refer to respectfully as the Mound of Death, there, all the way back to the railroad tracks. I love that space. It's really interesting. There are stories about the hobo house that sat in one corner, and you go back there and you can see, certain things, and there's a lot of really interesting terrain. But it has been so neglected over the years that even as a town-owned forest property, I think it requires a little bit of attention just for the sake that if anybody ever went back there, because the access is unrestricted, there are a lot of standing dead trees and things of that nature. So when I first started this job, I was thinking, well, this would be a really interesting project to clean up and maybe, utilize that space that otherwise had gone unused. So that's when the idea, as I started to do a little bit more investigation, that's when the idea of, right around that time is when the survey, the magic survey that said that Monmouth residents wanted trails or at least some sort of outdoor recreation, right? So that was following that timeline. And then that's when I was like, well, then this is probably the time that we should really look at this idea in earnest. What would it take? What kind of money? So the first part of it was forestry. So I contacted Fournier's Tree Service, former students of mine, just to give us a ballpark. And they gave us an estimate and I have that, and they went through and marked trees that they felt like should be removed. And I believe, I'm not an arborist or in that business, but I think basically it was, what they call a park. You park it, you leave some, but you clean out a bunch. It's just responsible forestry. So, they had given me, a quote for that and to clean it out. And basically, in my mind, it was, one of the easier sort of what I would call first at bats for the Trails Committee, right? It's town-owned property. There are no easements. All you'd have to do is basically clean it out, build the trail, and open it up to the public. And to me, what I mentioned was the Friends of Cumston Hall, I was prepared to move forward. We were going to do this as a Cumston Hall project. And we put it on hold. I wanted to make sure that as this committee, right at the timeline, speaking of timeline, this committee was getting sort of formulated and thought about right at around the time that this idea was starting to gain a little bit more momentum. And I thought, well, we should put this on hold. If a Trails Committee is going to happen in Monmouth, which I think is a fantastic idea, this could be a really nice project to have as a beginning. And I just say that because it's sort of in the pipeline. It's ready to go. We have a little bit of the information that kind of helps us get going. I've taken this to the age-friendly committee. There's talk about accessibility. Absolutely. In my mind, and I've shared graphics of this, and if I can explain it to you pretty easily. In my mind, it's just, when I map it out on Google Maps and you do the distance, it's 1/4 mile. And it goes back, it basically follows a straight line along the property line all the way back to near the railroad tracks. Then it follows the railroad tracks down a little bit. It turns back forward, comes back towards the hall, and that's the sort of view part. In my mind, there would be a crossover in between, right? So I'm a visual learner, so we have to imagine, if we're looking at the Cumston Hall property, and Cumston Hall is here, and we're talking about behind it, it's basically like a letter A. So you go back, come around, but then there's a little crossover here. And there's a natural little, like a stone wall, little rock formation that would allow that to be there. The work that I've done with the Economic Development Committee has sort of maybe convinced me that this would be a great TIF project. Again, we own the land. It basically just, we have a sense of what kind of financial direction we're going in. And I don't want to share that. I'm not being specific, just vague on purpose, because if I throw a number out, it's like, well, Dennis said, it's like, no, that was 2 years ago. So, we know we have a starting baseline, I think, or something like that. I will mention this as a really, really far off crazy idea. If you want crazy ideas, why not? Right? The crazy ideas you got.
Comes from the right source.
Baby. I also use Google Maps to do a little checking. And I did a little, public information search that is very boring. The long-term possibility of having a of having a trail that goes from Compton Hall along the railroad tracks north to Berry Road. Then from Berry Road, it would go to Main Street. From Main, right where the town office is, from Main Street and back to Compton and at the trailhead where you start, it's exactly 1 mile. And it seemed like, wow, that would be cool if, people in town could just take, just do a mile walk or whatever and things like that. But that was a long-term thing. There are landowners, that's an easement issue. There's accessibility, it may be more expensive. One of the landowners is Spectrum and Charter Communications, who God only knows what kind of bureaucratic thing, or you just do it. I don't know what the rules are. But anyway, so that was something else. But to me, the Compton Hall Trail, I think, has multiple uses for a lot of different age groups, for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different things. So that's it. I'll shut up.
I think it's an
So
intriguing.
Dennis,
Yes.
you said it's a 1 acre back there. Is that right?
Yes. Give or take.
Approximately?
It's a 2-acre parcel.
But that's only 200 feet by 200 feet, basically. I don't know how you're going to get 1/4 of a mile out of that.
I would have to check, I would have to check the Google map thing, Chris. I don't have it right off the top of my head.
Well, if you select
I
and
mean-
go through, you can weave and do
Yeah.
backs and make it nice and trail-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to the botanical gardens, it's like that.
Yeah, you definitely
don't
could
know.
do
It's
that. I'm just
just-
saying with the original plan,
Yeah.
a rectangle is only going to be 800 feet. Just down and down back and down across and back is only 600 feet. It's just, it's
Yeah, it might
not
be
a 1/4
more.
mile.
It must be more. It must be more, yeah. But I have it bookmarked on my computer, so I can share that with you guys. Yes.
With that Berry Road going out there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So is that all in, when you went out to Berry, are you thinking it would be all in the woods, or would you be then back on the road?
Well, I think it would be the ability to come out and back.
Yeah.
So you could go out and back, because otherwise you're on Berry Road, which has no sidewalk. Then you're on that weird portion of Main Street before the quick shop that has no sidewalk. So, just in terms of the loop, you know what I mean? It went out and about. It was a mile, but I think in my estimation, just for the safety of it, especially if you make it a wide, open to everyone trail, just down and back probably. But like I said, there's, just sort of ear to the ground sort of stuff. It was gonna be a bit of a slog. So, but that was a wish, what I mean?
And in terms of sort of the smaller trail, what you've done so far, have you had a trail planner come to?
Absolutely not. No, as far as we've gotten is getting the guys who are gonna take the trees out to take a look at it.
Okay.
My friend Rob Peel is the Trails Commissioner, the Trails Chair in Reedfield.
Okay.
And I asked him, I asked him to come out and take a look at it, but we never were able to coordinate it. So I never had someone who I would call a trail builder or anyone with a modicum of experience, just me, to do that. So that's as far as we got.
So when you said like Fournier came out, are they looking at just taking it down and then bringing in something else to do the stumps?
I don't know that. I probably think so. They do a partnership, but I don't know.
I'm sure they would just take the trees down for safety
Yeah.
purposes and clean it out. They probably
Well-
would do stumps.
They don't do stumps.
That's
Fournier,
why
what
we
he
went
said.
with this guy that we've got at the house.
Yeah.
He cleared, more than an acre yesterday in less than an hour.
Yeah.
It's a rotary skid steer.
Yes.
It's a mulcher is what it
Yeah,
is.
like,
Oh my gosh, I'm floored. And if you tell him, here's the trail, he can just drive it. It mulches it. You can drive your vehicle over it. We were sitting there yesterday, just jaw dropped at how this is going. And he's the only one I could find. He came from Dexter. He has a 6-hour minimum and he's $250 an hour.
Yeah, just,
Which-
you know,
Seriously, like if you went mapped out, this is my trail. And then you just,
$1,500 later, yeah.
well, and you just rake it or drag on top of it. You are, you know, you're as flat as you're gonna get. There's always risk when there's uneven ground. I mean, you can't negate the risk for the activity at that point. But that was the easiest
sure.
piece to come in. You
Sure.
can't find people around here with it.
Yeah, yeah. But at any rate, that's about as far as I
Yeah.
got. So I could share that information with you, but that's about as far as the idea has percolated is there, Cumston Hall, behind Cumston Hall will be a great spot to have a short trail. End of case.
You could do a lot, you could do a lot with that.
Yeah.
Were you contemplating like benches? I mean, because it almost seems more like, it's like a meditative kind of.
Yes, absolutely.
Rather than
And I've talked to Joel about this too, you know, I don't think it's not like it's just an opportunity for another story walk. You know what I mean? It's an opportunity for that. It's people before the show. You know, if they come in for whatever show it is at Cumston, they can just, you know, take a little stroll around, you know what I mean? Have something back there. To me, you know, it's a dynamic space. We know we could idea percolate forever.
Yeah.
But the point is, you know, it's town-owned property. It needs to be cleaned up, I think, just for liability's sake. And, you know, I think it has a benefit for the future.
One thing that I appreciate about this space is its location. Like it's centrally located. There are a lot of people within walking distance of that area that would think about putting it to work.
Absolutely. And just, even if it was just a few, you know, if it was a nice accessible trail, everyone can get out there. It could be a therapeutic piece too, you know what I mean? Like somebody said, contemplate, you know, it is like a meditative almost walk around. But a nice hub, you know, there is property back there. There is, you know, that corridor is wildly it's just wild back there. And not that that's a problem, but just the idea of like, could we, you know, maybe just throw a little trail back there, you know? So it's a good spot along those tracks. I don't want to take.
No, I have a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
So, in terms of sort of your sort of money.
Yeah.
Funding, sort of, have you looked at this, like the Friends of Cumston and?
Sure, the Friends of Cumston Hall would be able to pay some of that money. We would be able to help, you know, with some of the costs and stuff like that. The way that we would be able to benefit would not be necessarily when it comes time for building, but if there was something that we could do where it was like, if, you know, we got a price for clearing from whomever, the Friends of Cumston Hall may be able to cover that. Certain parts of it.
There's big grants right now for whole child learning.
Mhm.
And you can apply for that when you're doing an outside space. Because you are putting in the trades to clear it, to manage it.
Yeah.
You're introducing them to all of that.
Mhm.
Like that is, there is money right now that if you're able
Sure.
to go and grab it. And if you put it in as an outdoor, nature-based outdoor programming or classroom, if you're doing your story walks out there, especially if you have pre-K, K1
Yeah.
coming out, they are looking to give money to that.
Yeah, well, that works with like Harry Cochran Day, when all of the students come down and
Yeah.
it just gives another opportunity to be out there. So yeah, all of those things, we're looking at, I can tell you, we've already applied for and didn't get a grant from the Quidby Family Foundation. And so, you know, we just are sort of, you know, that's kind of, that's not surprising because we're still figuring out numbers. So I just sort of said, how about this number? And they were like, no. And I was, okay, great. But you know, that's kind of what's happened so far. So I know that there's outdoor stuff, right? Exactly. I know there's a lot of different, you know, outdoor grants. And to me, it's also, like I said, the TIF can be used to build trails. And this one seems like TIF-rific. Yes.
Are you thinking about a trail that's more of like a hard pack kind of you can roll over with wheelchairs?
Yes. So like, I think I've heard Rob use the term bluestone before. It's like
Yeah.
you could, it's so essentially you put down some fabric right? And then you just drop some loose stuff. So that way, wheels, I think wheels. I think that was one of the things we talked about, or I heard spoke of, in the age-friendly committee was that, you'd want that to be, and since it is relatively short, I think it's more conducive to being wildly accessible in that manner.
And it's also fairly level ground back there.
It slants back to the railroad, but that's it. There's no, I wouldn't call it an uneven terrain.
Right.
Again, because it did get used, back in the day.
I think in terms of funding and things like that, something that we have as a resource as well is Doug Beck. He does that for the state of Maine. That would be a good opportunity for us to learn more in terms of funding. I know he does some different trainings and stuff throughout the year, virtually, as well as I'm sure he would be willing to sit with us as a committee as well. I think with having a lot of railroad here and going through our town, I mean, there's also opportunity. I mean, my family goes out to Lisbon and uses the trail systems that they have out in that area. Augusta, there's the rail trail that goes from Augusta all the way out to Gardner. Speaking to your point of just having the trail that potentially goes out to Berry Road, turns around, I mean, that's right along a railroad. There's grant funding, I think, for stuff like that. So I think it is a good starting point for sure. And we've got a lot of land trusts in this area. If there's land in Monmouth that potentially is within those things that we can connect to an initial starting point, there may be opportunity for that in the future as well. Great thing.
Awesome.
So Dennis, what are you looking from us? What are you looking for from us?
Sure. I guess I think one of the things that I think is important, like, I think this is perhaps, I want the Compton Hall Trail to happen. And I want you to be involved. Those things are not mutually exclusive, right? Whether or not the Trails Committee feels like it's a worthy thing. I know that the Friends have that, I know that Compton Hall, I know that, we want to do this. So it seems to me like it is a good opportunity for a collaboration that we actually create a real honest to God first trail. And it doesn't mean, and I just say first trail because like I said, there is a little bit behind it. So what I would say is, if this is deemed, something that this committee wants to work on, I don't know how that works or votes, I don't know what, but if you want to move forward with that, then what I would do is I would kind of take the lead about getting people out there and coming, reporting out a little bit more and basically just sort of project managing this. So that, what I bring back to this group is progress reports, and individual discussions and things like that. We're not hashing out details in this meeting. I don't think that's what this is for. I think what we're doing here is if we wanna build a trail, then let's do it and I'll help get it going. That's it. Does that sound like a deal?
It sounds like that's what you're asking for.
I know. That's exactly right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So with regards to TIF money and things like that, how does that work, Ken, in terms of potentially seeing what there are available for funds? Obviously, if it is a trail and we're going to landowners and seeing if we could potentially get permission to come off the Compton property elsewhere.
Right, and that's down the road.
They may have certain things that they're looking for, that it's a trail that isn't just a path through the woods, that it does have some gravel or whatever down. Do you know what the process would be as far as?
Well, Ken can speak to it.
Go ahead, Gary.
So it'd be an application to the town initially. There's TIF funds available, kind of set aside for trails and stuff like that. I think ideally what we would do is be putting it up with a state group, whether it's RTP, kind of Doug Beck's group, TIF funds matching whatever the state fund could do. And that sometimes it's matching and sometimes it's 5 times as much. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of approach it. But I think that would be kind of the approach is the application to the town Economic Development Committee that goes to the select board after that.
So I would also suggest that, I think maybe this group could be a good sounding board for you in terms of design and sort of putting the pieces together.
Yeah,
And then once we come up with a project budget, we could go to the Economic Development Committee and figure out the best way forward. If it's a relatively small number, you know, $10,000.
that's how much we asked for from the Quibi Family.
So if it's a relatively small number,
Yeah.
then that doesn't sound like we would want to bother the state folks.
Depending on,
If
depending
we
how-
get-
complicated the trail is.
Well,
Just,
if we only get one shot with the state folks.
could I just say?
Yeah.
We got a couple of things on the agenda, so let's just put this in the parking lot, because I think I think we're getting, I think.
Sway's the chair.
I think there's
yes.
some good discussion here in
Let me-
terms of,
Let me just put two more sentences in the
okay,
record.
okay.
Which is, the Economic Development Committee would be the committee to recommend to the select board
Right,
the funding.
Right.
And then the select board would make a decision.
okay. So then it sounds like to me, what I'm taking away, and I hope it works, is if, you know, use this committee as a resource, but in terms of moving the trail forward, that is going to be on our docket. Okay, fantastic. Yahoo. Cool, thank you very much. And Chris, I'll make sure that I get you, I'll do those measurement things that Google, it make sure it makes sense and, you know, it's a small little deal, which I think is a nice, easy, get on base, let the big hitters drive you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to go now.
Thanks, Dennis.
All right. Absolutely. Have fun. All right. I'll load this up later. See you guys later. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think we got a couple pieces to talk about, so maybe we'll sort of also catch Chad up a little bit in terms of what we've done already, because we've done, some of the things we've done. We've done already. So first, go back to the agenda, just a minute. Any edits or additions to the minutes from the 7/12 meeting? I don't know.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from the 7/12 meeting.
Second,
Second.
okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, so as I said, three and four are sort of related on the agenda, which is the comprehensive trail assessment, and then the next step in assessing the academy trail. So just review, just so we have been having discussions with Doug and his office. And last meeting, one of Doug's employees, Emily Brown, who's a trail assessor, came out and walked with us the potential trail behind the high school, using the old cross-country trail, and sort of looked at it. She had some ideas, some concerns. One of her concerns, major concern, was there was sort of a low road, I would call it, and the question in terms of how wet it was, and sort of whether there would be logistic problems and also maybe some problems with environmental concerns. And then we also Chris had sort of a upper sort of road option laid out, which avoided some of that area, went closer to the school line. You know, in my mind, it was not as scenic. You lose some of that sort of woods, sort of natural area, but that was one thing that all off the stove.
This map is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the old snowmobile trail prior to the school being
Yes.
built, basically along the bottom of the orchard and.
That cuts
He's
to
referencing
us.
this map we walked last.
It would-
time.
Okay.
This was the low road.
Yeah, it is right on.
Yeah.
I don't know, you can have this copy if you want.
No, that's all right. I think Chris and I actually had cut this yellow piece through the woods. Is that the one that we had done around the time they were doing the school?
It does, it dumps right on.
Yeah.
That's what we're reopening.
Excellent.
So, we have, there are, so in Doug's program, there's two grant, sort of pots of money that he has, which is, one is, I always get like a land and water grant, which has more money. That's a 50-50 match. And then there's the RTP, Recreational Trails Program, which they only require a 20% match on that. And you also can use, if you use money for, trail design, that could be used as your match money for that. And I believe that's $100,000. So, we've had some discussions with. I did talk to Emily following that. And she had said, she talked to Doug and I guess sort of reiterated the concern about the water. Chris, did you want to jump in now?
Hands up.
Right on your forehead.
You're on mute, I think. Can't hear you.
He's reconnecting.
That trail that you're talking about is absolutely miserable in any time, including February, if you're on it by foot or by animal. It is so wet.
The lower.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the whole
know.
thing is it's so wet. We can't get on it with the horses or anything. And even in the winter, the ice pockets and then you're in, it's like,
I know I had run cross country in school and that lower part of the orchard was always very wet. Since the school has been built and kind of built up in that area even more, I don't know what it's like. Do you?
it's worse.
It is worse.
It's awful.
I know that it was always a very wet area, when I was in school down that way. But I can't.
His son had put a Eagle Scout bucket
Yes.
in for drainage in one
Yes.
spot, and that eventually that just.
Now I know what the hand-
Can you-
Further down.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So after doing that walkthrough there, and then walking out on the snowmobile trail, I was amazed at how dry and how smooth the snowmobile trail looks like right now. And I know that the snowmobile trail does have problems in the wintertime. That section below where we're talking is really wet, turns into just a big sheet of ice. Sometimes when it's wet, but right now it's amazing. And I'm wondering if instead of going the high road where we're running along the boring grass along the top of the retention ponds, maybe we just go down through the woods along the snowmobile trail. We go past the old pump house, and then Catherine, if it would be okay, we cut back onto your section of land that runs back into the old snowmobile trail that cuts back into the RSU2 land by the new baseball field.
We just cut into that, Chris. We're developing it and the goal is it's 5.6 acres. The goal is to put a track on the outside of it. And then
Okay.
build the course on the inside. And right now, when you get down about 150 feet is your first outlet towards the baseball fields. And then you go down more and you've crossed onto that snowmobile trail. So today our goal was to get down access to that. And that's fine with me. It's just, it's coming up with signage that if we're having animals, like who yields to what, there's lots of that out there. And it's also putting up the, you know, this is a risk you take coming onto these trails with everything, CYA, which we all have to do anyway.
Sure.
But I'm game for that, to bring the trail where it needs to go.
So. Let me.
But it kind of, in doing that, we're kind of helping out. We're helping out the snowmobile trail for a section. We're improving that, which is good for them. So it's kind of addressing a multi-use need.
I also
but
like-
it's good for walking in the summer, the horses. I don't know,
Yeah.
Catherine, what RSU2 feels about the horses, but if they could walk along that same trail in the summertime.
Well, the goal is also to put outdoor education classrooms in there off the trails.
Yeah.
So that RSU2 and the Beckett House can use those to further education. So it's going to become a hub and there's going to be parking. So
Mhm.
I'm game as long as we can CYA as much as we can.
What?
So-
Which one's this?
And then we
Okay.
could also talk to the school about running a small connector trail along the ridge there, Sean, of the retention ponds for use for something like the cross-country running team or something like that. It's probably not well suited for normal walking or whatever, but it could be something that the school could use for athletics. But that we could just suggest that and let the school go with that.
Yeah.
Or the horses can get mowed on apart.
Chad, is that snowmobile trail all on the school property?
So as you get down towards the pump house, that goes on to Emery's property,
Yeah.
and then Rodney and Wanda Curtis between the pump house and Catherine's property.
Cuts off,
Where it
yes.
kind of cuts back
Oh,
to the
okay.
left. So that opening towards the baseball fields, that's where the snowmobile trail used to come out. And then it took a hard right down to the corner and then it took a hard left. So I think that's where we currently come out onto the old trail is right there
Yeah.
on that corner where it basically comes out to the back of Catherine's property.
I mentioned to the Emerys at a ball game that we were looking at that
Yeah.
trail. They had seen that I had bush hogged it.
Right.
And I didn't get their feeling on it, if we could go to Main Street from their place or not. Have you?
Right. That is not anything that we've discussed. At one point when we were, having some reroute potentials, with Main Street down off Piper's property, we had kind of looked at that as an option, but it wasn't really feasible on the other side. So we didn't really,
Okay.
go too far in depth
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And we also have access to Main Street potentially by cutting across the ball fields like Chris's drawing had across the back of the ball fields out to the store almost, I guess, is what
Yep.
we're looking at. And that would be permission from the people that live in Louis' house.
Yeah, so you're talking about the first yellow house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the Janses, and then after that, Paul Roop has a development that has a piece of property that he bought between there and Quick Shop. So would be that, and then I think Kendall's property was the old Fournier Farm, just beyond that. So,
Not your kid.
but yeah, absolutely, that's definitely something to look at.
But the other thing too is across where the house is, there's 2 trails going down and there's 35 acres that we're willing to put into a trail system.
On your side, where you are now.
Where we are now, as long as it's there, where the HLC, if you walk right down there, that's how you can get in, or at the end of the riding ring, you're going in down that way. So it's not like coming into the driveway. It's separate but usable. And again, that would be, we started a little, and that's more advanced because it goes down a hill.
Yeah.
There's some elevation there.
There's a little elevation, but we've had an excavator come through, that would be something that I would say I would need grant money for, to develop it in the sole purpose of preserving it for trail use. But that's further probably down the road than you want, but if you put a parking hub or the schools are a parking hub, you can loop in, come here and come around through this way. You know, again, landowner permission on that. But, that is an option down the road.
So what I was gonna say is just, I think there's, in terms of sort of next steps, you know, looking at like sort of the assessments, I think, you know, the question is sort of how do we sequence some of that stuff? And so, and then I guess maybe to where, you know, you looked at Garrett in terms of the comprehensive. So maybe when if you could sort of just give us sort of your review, in terms of like what's out there for comprehensive, and then we could talk maybe about how we want to sequence things in terms of comprehensive, and do we want to go ahead and say, have somebody look at this now? We're pretty firm on this area as a starting point, so. Anyway.
Yeah, so this started in terms of just doing an entire assessment of the town. So we went to the state of Maine. They referred us to this Outdoor Sports Institute in Millinocket. And what they do is kind of do a comprehensive plan of the town and just kind of assess what would be good areas for trails. Whether that's with GIS or they're coming to do, you know, on-site visits, or they would meet with us or anything like that. But it's a nonprofit group up in Millinocket. They recently worked with Skowhegan to do their entire kind of, they've done a lot of work up in Skowhegan, where they've done a lot of trail work and rail work. So, and they do a lot of RTP work where they would help us with the grants. But again, just kind of a firm up there. I sent a few, so the major assessment that they've done is Skowhegan. They've done two small ones. They did one in Rumford. And I'm blanking on the other town it's been. But they do a kind of initial assessment. Again, what's our current stock of trails? What we could target areas, and then, you know, kind of help you from there. So.
They talk about cost at all.
Yeah, it would depend on obviously how much they need to come down here physically, and how much we want them initially. I said initially, probably not that much. We're still really in a lot of planning stages, but it would be good to at least have an assessment, or at least to kind of get organized around, you know, where we could go from here. But the cost for Skowhegan, I think he said was in the 10 to 20,000 range, but that was an extensive plan.
I was expecting
That
that
was
there.
It was like 150,000,
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Well, that's just the plan. That's
Right.
not the actual project.
That was a big,
But that's a big, I mean, the document that he shared with us is, I mean, it's 50 pages. It's
It's
a
non-profit,
very
so they'd
thorough.
be the cheapest out there anyway, probably.
Yeah, they look at their financials, it doesn't seem too bad.
Kind of sounds like, well, my thoughts are with everybody talking and figuring stuff out, like, it seems like we should use what we've already walked, and maybe with the addition of going to the snowmobile trail, remap that out, and then use what you've given us in terms of what we need for, it's like the checklist off for the things, and get that organized and use this as our first main project. And maybe at the same time, Compton Hall in parallel, so we still have that momentum and people in town start getting amped up about it. And then you're still working on your thing. So while you're doing that and we're building this connector piece kind of to both of these projects, I think that would be a good focus and a good use and understanding of how to get in touch with these people and those resources. And then how this goes will predict how the next development area will go, and the efficiency will get better and all those things. And it's just a matter of coming up with the acreage of land we want, what we want on it, what's that look like, get that ballpark figure, and then go search for funding and see what we can do from there. That's kind of what I'm getting out of all these talks and things. Is how do we centralize it into one project instead of kind of all of a sudden at the gates, be like, oh, we're going 3 different ways all of a sudden.
Well, so I think what you're saying, and I was sort of, I think, thinking similarly, that we could sort of run the two things in parallel. That I think there's a general feeling that property back there is a really good place to start a hub and comfort enough to say, okay, we want to have somebody actually do an assessment for us. At the same time, we could also have a comprehensive, and that would really help us sort of looking at all the tie-ins possibly and sort of where to go. So I mean, I think that's sort of what Dave's saying, and
That'd be TIF money.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
TIF
that'd be-
money.
yeah, we could easily justify kind of doing an assessment with TIF money to,
And then they would essentially, would they be able to quote out the amount needed for a grant based on the trail that they see?
yeah, so in some of the analysis, if you look deeper and further, they had each trail listed, what type of, multi-use,
Yeah.
bike, mountain bike, whatever. And then it would be kind of the length of the trail and then the cost estimate. And it's kind of a range of costs, whether it was significant or significantly high, but.
but I think for like if we do a specific sort of assessment for the academy property, I think that would be sort of more granular and you get a better estimate of the cost. I mean, we could, work with the trail assessors and say, here's what we want for crossings or whatever. And then I think you would have a good cost estimate that then could be used for your RTP. So if you're looking at that list, that's basically step one to get in the RTP process to get that grant. Chad, I'll send that to you. There was Emily sent she said the sort of next steps basically
Okay.
in the RTP process. She thought we were in pretty good shape. I mean, in terms of getting this, I think there's a June application deadline. And that would be for construction in 2026. She thought it'd probably be it'd probably be difficult for us to get something all in place for construction in 25. I think it could, but I think it might be difficult, but the first step anyway would be to get the trail assessment.
When's their grants due?
It would be
June.
That's the June.
That is June. Okay.
For the webinar you have to view, participate in, I think, March. As a pre-application process.
So get everything laid out, planned out, talk to the nonprofit guys and then get them apply by June.
Yeah, and this says professional design and engineering costs incurred during the year you apply are eligible for project match. So it's like, you kind of have to do all this at a certain time based on what's out there, I think. But I'm understanding, it's like, what's money available this year might not be available next year, right? So it's just saying. once
Yes,
you-
I think if we do the assessment during this year, we can put it in our grant and get
Okay,
approval for the construction season for next year. That's the way
okay.
Do we
So
have,
actually, sorry.
do we have a sense of what we would be asking to be funded from TIF allocations?
So, what I think makes the most sense is have OSI come to a meeting, kind of evaluate how much time they anticipate needing to spend down here. And then they can kind of come back with a quote. I think you're out of the room, but in terms of one of the assessments I sent for Skowhegan, it was between 10 and 20,000. But that was a very comprehensive.
So that outfit would also, they do a specific like trail
Yeah.
design. They could do like a trail design for that area. If we said, we really wanna, we're interested in putting a trail in.
Yes, yeah.
They could do that. I mean,
I don't know if they're building it, but
no.
No,
designing it.
Design,
Yeah, yeah.
The design.
Hard pack. a hard pack. There's a big difference between a mountain bike trail and a, a hard pack blue stone trail like you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
So you guys would have to figure out kind of like a ski resort where your
What trails are rich?
mountain bike ones come up with a coding aspect, kind of, get that set up and, code where animals could go or not go, or bikes or walk, or if it's okay for,
ATVs riding.
yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
Cars can hit anything under 40 on the roads here.
You talking about age?
Well,
It's a lot of
there's a
targets.
few. There's a few. No, because I had somebody drop a student off in a golf cart and I was like, where'd you come from? It's like, we can go anywhere where it's a speed limit under 40 on the road. Walk on,
Hmm,
checked with the police and they.
what'd they say?
You can, because it's a low, it's a low mileage, low speed vehicle. It can't be a UTV, but it can be a golf cart. I was shocked. But they
Okay.
had speakers and lights and I was like.
It's news to me, but
Do it.
the reality of it is, I'm not sure I see the difference between a UTV and a golf cart is huge.
Yeah, but it's a golf cart that UTV is those side by sides,
Yeah,
but the golf cart can go down on the roads. I was shocked.
we need to get the police chief in here to
Every meeting,
talk
we
to
just
us
keep
more.
growing and growing.
See invited again.
So maybe just in terms of like next steps, maybe that, I think I've got two, so that came to my first is see if this person from the outdoor recreational. Can come. And the other would be, I think we probably need to start talking to the school. I mean, last summer I had some discussion I talked to Rick and I talked to the head of the grounds,
Yeah,
and they were both supportive of
I
it.
got the thumbs up for that. Like exactly what we're talking about already, but it was through school use mostly. We didn't talk about through public use. I didn't realize this was happening at the same time that I was looking at the same space for the same idea.
Well, isn't it public use anyway?
So we'll need to go through the school board to get them to,
School board, yeah.
well, I think we need to have they're gonna wanna see a proposal, a written proposal that would be blessed by the school board at an official meeting.
So like, once we come up with this, we just show them those plans kind of deal.
I think maybe we should have an initial contact with them, just so high level to say, on a high level, is this okay to start spending money on?
Maybe we could talk to Donna Seppi
Yep,
and invite her to the next meeting,
okay,
because as chair of the school board,
yeah,
she expressed some surprise when I mentioned it to her, even
Right.
though it was the second time I'd mentioned it. So I think we want to make sure that there are no surprises for them
right.
and that they're comfortable.
Right, and one of the things that Emily mentioned was, just in terms of if you go in that upper route, you may have issues with the school. If you're real close to school.
Sure. Proximity to kids. Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right, so.
Yeah,
so
I don't know
think-
if you can hear me.
Yeah, yeah,
That's one of the things about sticking with the lower part down by the snowmobile trail. I mean, they've already have approval for that. So it'll be easier, I think, for the RSU to say, that's okay. It's not close to the kids. Yeah. There are definitely some issues we'll have to talk about with parking and where the trail does come in closer to where the kids can be, but seems like they should be all right with that.
You find a connector between that lower snowmobile trail and the one that you cut through the woods by the ball field? Do we need a cut up through there somewhere?
Yeah, I think it would be good to have a cut through there.
Okay. We then link to Blazing Saddles.
Oh, not quite Blazing Saddles. That's the movie.
So I think to Chuck's point, obviously checking with the RSU, like I said, I think we just need to make sure that where the trail currently that we're looking at is at, that we get with the other landowners, obviously, like the Emerys, Wanda and Curtis, and just make sure that we have permission on their ends too before we go too far. Cause like you said, if we don't, then we may have to cut up earlier anyways, up towards that piece, if we don't have permission on that end anyways, but absolutely. So I will see what we have as far as landowners that and see what we get as far as feedback on that, if it's something that we're looking to create a public trail down through there.
Because they've given winter permission.
Yes.
not Year-round permission, that's
And
different.
I guess that's the thing, I mean, when, with snowmobile trails, we're constantly evolving our trail system as one landowner transitions to another down the road. If this is something we're looking at for a public trail system that we're making large investments in, if that landowner were to change hands, what do we do? I mean, do we look at an easement or something, or just try to keep it on the back side of their property? So I don't know, but we definitely
I think that's where we
need to
consult
look at.
OSI too, to see
They
what are
must
the
have that.
workarounds here too, and what's the best kind of approach with town.
So one thing that for Doug's program for the RTP, when you're crossing private land, you don't technically need an easement. You could do it with sort of similar to what
Yes,
the snowmobile does, and they're willing to fund that, still fund it. But you do run the risk later if you have, you know, a transfer of property or person. that says, I don't like, you know, I don't like it, then you have some issues. So obviously it would be better to get an easement if, you know, that's what we could do. Yeah. But yeah, if you could. check
Okay.
that.
yep.
Kent, did you want to check with Donna about coming to the?
Yeah, I can reach out to Donna Seppi and invite her to the next meeting.
Yeah. You want to talk about, let's talk about next meetings. So it sounds like this time is not so good. Especially people who are working. So we talked about trying to get something that was outside of working hours. And I don't know if evenings, weekday evenings, is that a possibility?
In the summertime, not so much for me.
Okay.
I'm usually up late on the lake till 8 or 9 o'clock sometimes.
We've got one more day, one more Friday morning that would still be summertime, I think, before school starts, at least the 9th.
How about a weekend prospect?
Saturday morning?
Throw a date.
Well, I think we're trying to,
We could do a Saturday morning if it's like 8 or 9 o'clock or 6.
I might not be able to make it. I'll be mixing bread.
No,
Saturday mornings, I'll be mixing bread.
6:00.
Are we not have summertime or year round or just for the next week?
Yeah, we only have, I mean,
Water
we're,
Association.
we're gonna be done summer too soon, so I'm looking more like sort of long term in terms.
Yeah,
of-
we don't want to change the change again.
Yes, so I mean, we could, I mean, if it's just a summer thing, maybe we could do another Friday or something, and then as we go forward, then go to
An evening thing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
7 o'clock or 6
Yeah.
o'clock, something like that.
For me, it's avoid Wednesdays, I have wrestling meets, but that's during wrestling season, which is 6 months out of the year. 7 months out of the year.
I'm just going out of town.
That was it.
I'll be out of town the 4th to the 9th, being Baxter, but I get back on the 9th.
is that this month?
August.
August, yeah.
9th is the next meeting. Next Friday.
Yeah, I'll be coming
So,
back.
yeah, we didn't really schedule.
We Bill and I want to come down for 8 o'clock meeting.
They could probably,
Zoom.
Zoom in.
Yeah, we could see it. If we go, 8:30, I mean. Actually, he lives in Camden, so he wouldn't care.
Oh, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's an hour.
All right, let's just figure out, let's figure out post-summer, and then we could sort of figure out what we're gonna do in August. What we wanna do sort of more long-term.
I have to head out to give direction because he's reached the end.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Chad, are you
Thanks.
better the next Friday?
Stop by on your way.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, I'll make it, if it's just one more Friday, then I should be able to.
All right, so then Friday the 9th would be all right.
Yeah.
At 8.
Dave can't make it, I can't.
I won't be here, but that's just one person.
Back that day.
Yeah, we're gonna be packing up camp and they always like to go to this slidey rock thing on the way out.
The, so September meetings is, when does the selectmen meet?
It's every other Wednesday.
So let's.
So we're gonna be meeting on August 7th, 21st, September 4, September 18th.
Sean asked not to do Wednesdays, right?
From November through April, I can't do.
About Tuesdays. Tuesdays work for people?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Work on, so the
Tuesdays
second
are good with me.
Tuesday,
What's that?
Oh, no.
Tu-
I said Tuesday's good with me.
the
Tuesday.
second Tuesday of the month, I have a snowmobile club meeting, but any other Tuesday.
Okay,
first and
so
third.
we could do first and third Tuesdays.
Okay.
So then we're looking at Tuesday, the 3rd
The 17th.
and the 17th,
Yeah.
and that would be sometime in the evening.
Yeah, 7 o'clock, or would you want to start earlier?
7 o'clock works best for
Works.
me. You guys are.
I was gonna say, the later the better, for me,
7?
yeah, 7 should be fine.
Okay.
So that first one is
If
Tuesday,
we wanted to push an hour later, it doesn't matter to me.
the third.
Stubborn and.
The 3rd.
You have a different problem than I. It's bedtime for your kids, it's also bedtime for me. You're just getting started.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you.
And then Tuesday, the 17th.
Yeah.
Right.
At 7. Cool.
And then what we could also, we could go into October. So the 1st and the 15th, right?
What are we planning on,
Tuesday night, October 1st.
August 23rd?
No, we haven't done
I'm
August yet.
talking. I
That should-
understand.
That should be a meeting, yeah, in the morning, August 23rd is another 8 a.m. meeting on Friday, unless we bump that to the,
I would say let's do the 9th and then the 3rd. I don't know if we
skip the 20th.
Skip the 23rd?
skip the 23rd, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could base it on what Millinocket says, whether they think we need to meet and discuss or.
Let's leave it open. Let's
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
let's just say, we'll do the 9th at our Friday time,
I don't know if I can.
August 9th.
Okay.
And then we have the September 3rd, 7 o'clock. September 17th, 7 o'clock. And I was gonna say October 1st, 7, and then October 15th, so. That good?
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess that's good. Good night. So, I'll send this stuff to you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Chris,
Are we gonna talk about agenda items for the next meeting?
yeah. So we're gonna, hopefully have, the, rep from the outdoor consulting program and have someone from the RSU present. Anything else? The,
You're breaking up.
we can't hear you, Chris.
Max Headroom.
Yeah. Pepsi commercials.
Try again.
Sorry.
That's even worse.
You wanna text me with?
Oh,
Yes. Can you see my typing? Yes, we can. He's typing in there.
Hey, Gary, for this, those SI thing, the access to outdoor equipment and stuff, is that including like being able to access like trail building equipment, or are they talking like equipment like mountain bikes and things like that?
Assessment,
I'm not gonna be at the next meeting. That's my only thing. Was like,
we have something for
Just wondering if
updates
that
from other
includes
trail development.
trail building.
These from Sean and do at the end was, but me, I work on the same thing you guys are. So I have no- Oh, I know what you're
equipment
talking
like a
about.
bike.
Yeah,
like skis and things like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Probably Sean and Sam.
Chris, I'll touch base with you before I'll do the same thing and circulate a proposed agenda.
So Chris was asking, there's a trail system up on Tom Ogee's land and Sanborn's land and maybe who's the neighbor that you tried to get in touch with there?
Oh, Peter Bouchard?
Yeah, so there's Nordic ski trails that Chris has been working on and we've been helping him out with, that go from my property up to Tom Ogee's property and then quite extensive.
Yeah, that's this map.
And Sam was working, yeah, that map right there, and Sam was working on maybe doing a trailhead sign for that. So he just wanted to put that on the radar for the trails.
Okay.
It's a trail system that is now developed. Tom has given us permission to have a parking lot and put trail signs up on his property. Marking those trails and what those trails would be used for. Nordic ski trails, mountain biking trails, he was good with horses, he was good with walkings, he was good with.
It does come out by the transfer station. There's a section, so that's a huge group of trails out there.
Yeah, and it crosses the snowmobile trail that goes to the transfer station.
So it goes on to Peter Bouchard's property.
Yeah, Peter Bouchard, but there's radio silence from him right now by the sound of this.
Yeah, I don't know if he was busy in a meeting or something, but yeah, we just didn't connect. But we acknowledged that we were both there.
It's funny.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just that we just go back out there and talk.
I think that's gonna be one of the huge things is just signage so people know as we deal with multiple landowners, just making sure people know where and where not they can be in terms of different uses. And that will
Yeah.
definitely fall upon us as a committee, I would think, to create some sort of map and just have this signage very visible so people know. I mean, obviously, that's a huge thing for winter use in terms of trail, just making sure our trails are signed.
That could be, and based on what Kat said, with funding, if we get the students to make the trail signs and stuff for that, we might be able to get more funding that way through.
Yeah. Yeah, he gave us permission to actually put in a little parking area up by the Christmas tree farm.
Mhm.
And it's, the parking area is really there now. It just needs a sign saying it's a parking area. And then a bush hog to go down, marking the trail to the woods, basically.
Yeah.
So
Rode that last week with Chris.
how are the trails? Are they pretty bushy right now in the woods?
Uh,
I was looking at bush hogging that before that last rain we got, but
Yeah, I wouldn't go back there now. Yeah, I think they could use a pass or two. Like, there's a tree down here and there, but minor maintenance.
So maybe also for the next meeting, we could all look at in step 2 of the RTP application. Deadline is to download the grant application and guidance. So I think maybe if we all look at that, you know, we can sort of discuss that and see what's ahead of us.
All right, that's my homework.
For the grant, for the
Can you
big
guys
grant.
hear me
that's
at all right now?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You good now?
You hear me any
Yep.
better?
Yeah.
It would be interesting to have somebody, I don't know if anyone has some time, but to go see what Catherine is doing and to get an update from her regularly on whatever trails she's building there. But it sounds like she's got some pretty awesome equipment that's helping. And I'm wondering if we could learn something from that, not all of our trails have to be awesome gravel. They can be different types of things. And if she's learning something here that we might want to know about, it would be good.
Not all of our trails need to, I didn't hear the word that you said, not all our trails need to be what?
They don't all need to be really in great condition. They don't need to be gravel or accessible or anything
No,
like that.
definitely. You could have different looks.
Sean and I were gonna take a peek at what she was talking about right after the meeting, so I could take pictures and stuff and get back to you.
Yeah, I want to see.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That's sort of cool.
Yeah, the forestry mulches are pretty sweet. I'd love to have one.
Heavy duty.
That's what the utilities.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty
It's
amazing.
harder.
Yeah, so for the bigger grant, like for the Doug Beck grants, the 2 options there, how far would you guys want to go on that grant? Is it gonna stick with just here? Are we gonna look at having a giant grant that covers like there, Compton and like, Catherine's area or over by OG's? We look for the entire town in one grant or looking for.
I think we should do small and show them that we can do well with it, and then the next time they're like, I got it. And then
Small with the options to connect.
Yeah, and I think,
we got a lot.
I think part of it will depend also in terms of like the money, how much it costs and maybe. But I think the first thing is to get that assessment, See, if it's gonna be 100,000 and Doug has 100,000, I think, okay, that's what we wanna do. If it's 20,000, maybe we could do a little more or, I think that's gonna help define sort of what we want, but I do think, I think generally it looks like that would really be a good first step and have something that's manageable and.
Yeah, I remember he talked about with the grant and approving the grant, he looks at, okay, where's the trail? What are they looking for? And is that number realistic?
Yeah.
Like doing the homework, having the other company come in, the consultants, I think accomplishes that. So that would be good. And just keep it here,
Yeah, it sounds like we got tons of options already that are starting to open up, so.
right? I mean, there's that connection here to the fairground that dumps out near Chad's place. That's another potential connection as well.
That'd be Griffiths over there.
So pond or whatever.
Okay, is that?
So as far as Emily Brown, what was it that she did? She's a planner or just?
She's an
assessor?
assessor.
Okay, so she hasn't actually seen the trail down the snowmobile trail yet, or she has?
We sort of just showed it where.
We didn't go down, we saw the area right in the section.
Yeah, I know there's some poison ivy. I guess you come off, I think.
Yeah.
the,
I had a little bit of it.
But,
After our walk.
Gotcha, yeah, I know initially coming into that section there, it's
It's like, oh, my knee.
as you get further out down towards
As long as it don't spread, that's right.
the well house.
Yeah.
I know we've had some issues with some water kind of crossing the trail down that way. So I think that's the big thing is just making
Yeah,
sure.
that was small. That was, well-placed culvert and some material takes care of that spot, I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
I went through with my tractor and didn't get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Where did we walked down through the woods
on the initial trail, and then we walked up high above to see what that looked like. But then when we were down below, we mentioned where the snowmobile trail was and said it is parallel.
snowmobile trail.
We did
We
it.
were on the snowmobile trail for 100 yards or so. It wasn't a long ways, but we did walk that.
On the way out that. Oh,
Yeah.
When we came back.
back towards the outhouses. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember what we did now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I remember what we did. Yeah.
I know when Chris and I, when they were initially building the school and stuff, Chris and I had met with the civil engineer. I think we had met with them together, right, Chris? And we had talked through different things as far as trails, like there's a gate right in between the two water ways up there that we could open up and have cross-country skiing potentially go down through that gate that goes down towards the well house. That was all stuff that we had kind of planned out as they were building the school initially. I don't know whether it, now that obviously the school
The
is
gate
there and the
there.
kids are at recess out there, I don't know if that's an option, but that was something we had kind of talked through at the time. In the process of building, just so that the gate was there in case we could utilize it at some point.
Right. Is that gate there? That might be there in the middle of the field.
Yeah,
They
the
definitely
gate
put
is
the
there.
gate in. Yeah,
Okay.
but that was around, I think, the time of looking at kind of going down through the middle, taking a hard left and
That's why there's two
cut that
retention ponds
piece
instead of
from the
one.
bottom of the orchard up towards the baseball fields and stuff, so. Excellent.
Do you think it's worth trying to contact another trail firm just to get another? Emily had a pretty big list. I mean, there was a fairly big list. I could see if they have anybody. Ask Doug if he has anybody that he thinks is particularly good for trail engine, like engineering. I'll just see what he says, you know.
Go who they know so the grant gets approved.
It would be interesting. I mean, like I said, I've utilized trails in Augusta and Lisbon, and obviously there's the trails out in Brunswick, Topsom area. I think the important thing is where we're just starting out is just kind of understanding like the process that they've used. I mean, obviously, as a snowmobile club, the big thing initially is you come up with your idea of where you want the trail to go, and then you have to see what landowners, if you can even go that route, because obviously it's a privilege and not a right to use the property. We have to make sure we have the permissions and all that stuff in place. So I don't know if that's how people do it at the municipal level. I would assume that still has to all kind of go, because we can't just utilize property without the permissions, but it would be interesting to just hear from other people how they kind of go about the process of building a larger scale potential trail system or something that's more community based year round.
Yeah. So would we start talking to landowners between now and the next meeting with the planning group, with the? outdoor
Yeah, I mean,
sports center?
they say they go as far as like, they would host like a town hall, like, or a community event, and they would walk through landowners, like what are the implications and stuff like that, kind of more educational. So, I mean, it's more of how much we want them to do, I think, is, you know, kind of where these costs and what, you know, what we're looking for. So,
We have a Chad, he's good.
the chat.
Getting landowner permission.
Definitely, talked with a lot of them, but it's like I said, snowmobile trails we've been very, very fortunate. We've got 100+ landowners that we've worked with over the years. And it really is, it's a privilege for us to be able to use them. It's not a right for people to be able to use them. And I think the big thing is just maintaining those relationships and making sure that we're doing what we say we're gonna do in terms of the process and doing it so that snow is nice because you've got snow, you're not actually touching their property.
Right.
Whereas other times of the year, you're actually potentially impacting properties. So I think the building of the trail is much more important at that point in time. Snow, you can fill in a lot, make it non-bumpy, even though it is bumpy during the off season or whatever and stuff. So
People
there's,
during the winter are not necessarily using their land in the summer. They
Yeah.
may be, there's different.
right, yeah. We definitely have a lot of landowners too that snowshoe or ski and things like that and utilize the trail
Kids that
system.
are gonna walk to school through the woods and instead
Right.
of taking a bike or, where they can walk right up through the woods, it'd be real convenient to
Yeah.
bike, mountain bike or something on the trails,
Right.
ride their horses,
Tie their horse outside school.
have a hitch post.
I had a horse up out front.
Monmouth Mustangs and you get a bunch of Mustangs.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, guys.
Adjourn.
Pleasure meeting you all.
I think I'm-
Maybe
I'm
your
gonna be
email,
adjourned.
Chad.
I don't know.
Second. All in favor? Yeah. Okay.
It's Chad, right? Is it? 2000.
I don't, I'm not spending too much time. I just want to take a peek. So
Period in there.
So good.
I got wood to move out now that it's not raining. You got something, Chris? Oh,
Yeah,
you're just
thank
waiting
you.
by.
Hi, Chris.
All right.
Chad, what's your email?
Chad Wright. WRIG. Okay, 2010.